I'll open up a guitar here, and specifically the Ilya Efimov guitar, the nylon guitar, because this is one of my favorite sample libraries, because you play it and it immediately feels like a guitar. I don't know why I also feel, whenever I have a guitar sample, I feel inclined to play it that way. But yeah, I specifically love this one because it feels natural. Now, not everything that I play on the keys will necessarily be realistic, in the sense of the finger position and how the guitarist moves. And I play guitar myself, so I know. But it really gets you there. So immediately, if I want to start playing, like, I could play the actual guitar as well if I wanted to, but sometimes I have a lot of fun playing guitars on keys. So as you can hear, that's pretty bone dry. I found that specific concert hall that I referenced earlier, the Auditorium de Dijon. I don't know what it is. It's somewhere in France. Dijon in France. Using the positioner, it seems to work. Where was it? So this is it without. And this is with it in the space. So the thing is, it makes the sound is already alive, but with the bone dryness, it's unnatural. This makes these sounds a lot more natural, and with virtual instruments, anything that makes your instruments, your sample library sound more natural is very necessary. So I really love what this does. And a lot of times, because I'll set up instruments with the reverbs and the kind of EQs that I generally want to feel while I'm playing them. Sometimes that might end up in the final production, depending on the context of the rest of the mix. But like, you might hear something like this, and not really want to mess with it too much. I'm just having fun playing this, and that's the point I'm making, is that it's fun. It's meant to be fun. You make art and you work, but damn it, if you're not having fun, this is why a lot of people make music, and definitely why I got into it. Is it started off fun, and if I can maintain the fun throughout this process and the excitement, that's what I want. And a reverb like this, I have a lot of fun with it. Now, it's not crucial. I need to emphasize that. It's fantastic. It's completely beneficial, and you might wonder how you lived without it once you try it. But it is not. You can still make great music without it. That's, I think, and without a lot of these tools anyway. You just you find your basics, and you find something that works, and you go for it. And sometimes that even that kind of really, I don't even know what the word is, kickstarts your creativity and really enhances it. But yeah, it never hurts to have these beautiful tools. Now, I want to move to one of my favorite sample libraries, which is the Impact Soundworks Oud, or the Oud, if you want to say it properly. Sorry, not properly. Say it in its native language, which is Arabic. Even though this is a Turkish oud, so it's different. But I really love this instrument as it is. Let's put it up here. So what I've done here is I've actually turned off the reverb that it comes with, because and I love it for the same reason I love the Ilya Efimov guitar. It's, yes, I still have control over how I want it to behave, so I can mimic the actions of a natural player, of which I should play the oud as well. So I'm aware of what needs to happen. But again, I put it in the same reverb as the guitar, which is the Auditorium de Dijon, and I might actually move on and play it on the other keyboard, because I like a lighter action with the oud. I don't know, it's just, it feels more authentic to the way you would play the original instrument, and just piano keys are just too heavy for what you want to do. So I'm just going to move over there. Let's do some micro tuning here. So yes, that's a little oud, little sampled oud, and it's beautiful. Like, what they've done, they've just really nailed the sampled oud, if you want to say it like that. Now, I want to actually talk about it in the context of LA scoring strings specifically, because LA scoring strings famously seems to it had famously suffered from this not audio problem. It was pretty bone dry and kind of very raw. The way it was recorded, it was close mic'd, it was raw, and a lot of people weren't happy with it. Now, I personally really enjoy the original sound quality of LA scoring strings. I don't know why, I really like that raw sound, but so it doesn't always work for everything, and sometimes you need to smooth it out a little bit, and you try EQs and you try other reverbs and that kind of thing, and it kind of gets you there, but it doesn't really go through go the whole way. Now, at least the Audio Bro, the guys who developed LA Scoring Strings, had then installed the ARC, the remote control, where you could go stage and color and do all those kinds of things. And I've tried it, and I try to love it. And a lot of people seem to be doing fine, so it might just be me. But I tried to love it, and I couldn't. And I've always wanted... actually, no, that's not true. I've tried it, and I've used it, but it's a bit complicated, and it feels a bit unnecessary. Not unnecessary, it is necessary, but I really wish there was an easier way to do that. And also, I wished we could use the ARC sort of outside of LA Scoring Strings. Generally, look, maybe I just need more time with it, with the position and that kind of thing, and to play with it. But I decided I wanted to try what LA Scoring Strings would sound like through Altiverb, which I think a lot of people are doing as well. So I'll just load up the LA Scoring Strings. Here's just the violins, the first violins. I just like the full section. I didn't do the whole Divisi thing with this. But get this expression pedal. This is kind of what it would sound like bone dry. Without the cuts. So there's a beautiful quality there that I actually like, and sometimes a lot of what the ARC would do, or the ARC control, would start taking away from the stuff that I actually liked about the sound, in order to soften it and that kind of thing. But so I wasn't fully convinced. I went back and forth on it. So I threw on some Altiverb. Now, because this is recorded in position, and you can hear the violins kind of on the left where they would be traditionally seated. Now, you don't have to follow tradition if you don't want to, but I tried a few impulse responses, and I liked this one of the concert halls, and at 5.1 meters, and then I kind of dialed in the distance and the positioner. So this is what it sounds like without it. Too much part a minute, but whatever. And I'll turn that reverb back on, keep it on top, and see what it sounds like. Sorry, the crackles. My system's struggling a little bit under recording everything. Might outsource the webcam to the laptop next time. So I really like what it did to that, and it didn't seem to lose much. And even when we have the color control, I can still retain that quality that I really liked in the original sound, which would be... But it didn't color it way too much that I didn't really like the sound. So, and if I combine it with the second violins and play them together, and I've got over the whole LA Scoring Strings Orchestra here, the string section, I've got all of the same settings. And because they're always already recorded in position, I didn't mess with the stereo panning or the stereo positioning whatsoever, because then they'll just be seated where they are and in their original positions, but in the space. So this is the first and second violins together. And maybe try the violas together. Now with the violas, I'm not a purist, so sometimes I found it necessary to play a little bit with the EQ, and just to get it to sit right. And even with the cellos down here, I found it necessary to do something similar as well. But that's the thing. I'm not a purist. I'll put the entire section together. Now down to violas and cellos. So yeah. Anyway, and I decided, okay, let's put them all in the room and see what they sound like playing together. So I came up with a couple of little pieces, and this is where they are. So that was pretty cool. That sounds really cool to me. It's a pleasure to play with the reverb. If you hear that. So yeah, I quite like it. I tried it with a different piece that's a little more high energy in the melody. Not high energy, but a little more like it speaks a little more. And let me play it again with the reverb. Probably could have laid off the mod wheel a little bit, but that's fine. So that's what I'm saying is I really like that raw sound, but it sounds a little small, and you want to expand it a little bit. You put it into space, and that's what you get. So and some sample libraries, because they have all these different, like a lot of sample libraries these days actually have these different mic selections, and it really works. But the space is part of the sound, because they'll record the space. They're not just recording the orchestra or the strings of the brass; they're recording the space, and I found that really interesting. So with the LA solo cello, I really like it because it sounds alive. You know what I mean? And let's put it on top. I'm sick of doing this. But on its own, and I apply a little bit of EQ because it's my own little thing. But yeah, on its own, I like how it sounds. So that's really nice. And I like kind of how it plays, how it feels when you play. That's really a player thing. But, I put it in a space with the positioner, with a bit of EQ to help it out, and a little bit of playing with the damping. And one more time, I'll play it dry. And I'll play it with the position. So I really like how it plays there. Can't remember what I did with this other one. Oh yeah, I had this in the auditorium as well. So get that with the positioner. So it still feels alive, And a lot of that makes, when it sounds a bit more natural, sounds a little more alive, and that's what I really, really enjoy about it. So, yeah, that's how it's playing with LA scoring strings. While we've got the orchestra happening, I'm just going to disable all of those. clearing them off the RAM. I really like how it works with woodwinds specifically. Woodwinds take really well to convolution, in my experience anyway. So I've got the Cinnamons flute. For some reason, I really, really enjoy the spot mic. I don't know what it is. It's just it sounds nice, and that's the thing. You can get the close mic, you can get the spot mic, you can get the room mic, but sometimes it's about the tone, not necessarily about the distance, and that's what I like about the spot mic. The disable thing. All MIDI inputs back here. So now this is what it sounds like. I really like it after the 1.3 update. I don't know. I was a bit on the fence about it, on edge about it before, but I really like what they've done with the 1.3 update. But here's this pop mic. So I really like that sound. I put it into a concert. Is it a concert hall that I put it in? Yep, one of those concert halls with the positioner, and this is what we get. And if I position it even further back, then it feels like it's at the back behind the strings. Let me compare that to the room sound. Oh, it's still loading. I need SSDs. I still haven't made that jump to SSDs yet, so I'm running everything off traditional hard drives. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, sorry, that's the close mic, which is still really nice if you put it in there. It's a little more detail on that spot mic. That's what I really, really enjoy. But let me get the room mic. And so this is the legato. And they've recorded the Cine samples. They've recorded this on the Sony scoring stage, which doesn't necessarily have a big reverb tail at all, but you can still get the sense of the room. And they usually add in a bit of reverb as well. There we go. It's very subtle. So does my flute player breathe? I don't know. And I'll put this right back to the room. So, it works in these examples where you like the way the instrument plays, and you've got a close mic option, but you don't necessarily want the sound of that room. So you can get a close mic, put it into another room. That's generally the idea. Now, it doesn't always work with everything, but for the most part, you can get close. Now, the VSL flute, the VS Symphonic Library flute, you can equally do that. So I've got it up here now. It's recorded bone dry. I think all VSL instruments are recorded bone dry. So but it's a really nice tone. And I remember when I bought it a few years ago, I was like, whoa, hang on, this sounds really good, because a lot of people have been recommending it for woodwinds. And to put it into a scoring stage. In this example, it's Teldex, which is the German scoring stage. And I put it in as, you can put it in stereo, you put it as mono, but with mono, you can really get it focused. So here it is right in front of you. I think I've used a 5 meter, yep. So maybe I'll just dial it back. I like it dialed back, I think. The 10 meters is really cool. So you can do that. Now I'll put it in with the stereo. So here it is positioned. Which, and again, it depends on your mixing and how you're mixing this. One option might seem better than the other. So with the stereo link edits, I'll just put it all the way to the back and to the left. So it's there. It's completely possible. Because if you keep the stereo link, then it's just that close mic image, which the stereo image is just, it's basically centered. You can maybe move it around a little more. So VSL takes well to a lot of things, but it's beautiful to be able to use it in this way. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about brass and percussion. Not too much. But brass specifically, like here I'm using Cinebrass, the 2 horns from Cinebrass. And the thing about brass is that a lot of that sound, and especially with percussion as well, a lot of that sound is in the room. You're never hearing a French horn right in your face. You're hearing the French horn blowing into the room, reflecting off the walls in most contexts. So this is, let me just turn on the room mic and solo it. So this is no other effects. This is what the room mic sounds like. And then this is what the close mic sounds like. So as you can see, maybe what you want to do is actually you want to get that lighter, like the close mic doesn't capture so much the effect of those reflections off the wall and off the venue. So it sort of appears more tame, appears more subtle. And that can help when you're doing something like, stuff like that. But what if sometimes the attempt of replicating all the complex things that happen in a real space via convolution can seem futile. I gave it a shot anyway. So this is what it sounds like with the full mic. Sorry, the room mic. And I'll put the close mic with Altiverb. Now, if I turn off the EQ, because I did some EQing here to get it there, you kind of miss out on the rambunctiousness of what's going on with the French horn. Whereas if you get that original mic, you see that? And that kind of gets missed in that close mic and gets translated into the convolution reverb. Like, it's still kind of toned down. So I found that playing with the EQ and the damping can have an effect. So here, now it's not perfect, but if you're trying to replicate the sound of that hall, this might be a good way to start and a good way to kind of compare it. Find a convolution and play with its high and play with its low, so that it can kind of only mimic, and it might even be a poor imitation, but it is there to help. All I'm saying is this is possible. And sometimes you're trying to get rid of some of that low end, so. But something like this. And you can really hear it in the transitions. Of course, it does lose something if you're trying to create a copy of that. You'll never really get there, because this is why when you go into these spaces, this is why people record in these spaces, because that's how they play. That's how they sound naturally. And try as you might with reverb, you will never get 100% of the way there, but you can get kind of close. Or you can just choose to be creative about it and not worry too much about the pure approach. And as I said, I'm not a purist. So that's brass. True Strike. Now, I actually got this copy of True Strike from a composer who wanted to get rid of it, not because it was bad. He had used it for many years, but then he decided he wanted something fresh. And he kind of couldn't get rid of the sound of that original hall that they recorded in. It's very noticeable and kind of left an imprint on his music. So he wanted to move on, find something fresh. I was happy to get True Strike because I'd been wanting to try it out and really kind of enjoying it. And I do quite enjoy it. But I did try to replicate that hall, and then also try to see if you can take it out of that hall. Because if the problem was the hall, maybe you can just take the hall out of the equation when you've got access to the close mics like you do. So this is what it sounds like with the hall, the stage mic. So let's put it down a little bit. So I'm just using a snare here. Now, if I put the close mic, and this is a problem with a lot of that tends to happen. A lot of that, again, that rambunctiousness, that noise, that chaos is lost because you get a clearer image of the original drum, but not what it does in the room. And again, depending on your context, if you're attending an orchestral concert, you're hearing the snare way back behind the rest of the orchestra and the bass drums and all that kind of stuff. So the close miking won't get you there. And this is why when you see a lot of these dry sample libraries doing percussion, it's hard to get the percussion to sound right. But Altiverb does provide an answer. So I've got this close mic, and I've put it in this thing called the Chapel Studio. Now, the Chapel Studio I've really, really kind of enjoyed because it tends to put something in a room without completely overpowering it and overcoloring it. And they've got some really cool IRs. But I gave this a shot. So I'll just disable the reverb, get you to hear the stage mic. Now I'll put the close mic on and enable the reverb. Now there's a lot of that chaos going on. Now, what I had to do is play with the damping and play a little bit with the EQ, but let me turn off the damping. Let me turn off the EQ. See if you can see the difference. Oops, no. There's still a bit of chaos missing. And sometimes that's a high-end chaos, and that's where I figured maybe that's what you need to do to replicate it, is get some of that high-end happening in the response. So it still kind of sounds a little thin. It's not really doing that much. And the low end sometimes needs to be boosted, because it needs to appear, because that low end gets almost lost in the close mic. Ironically. It's not supposed to, but you don't hear how that low end bounces off the walls, is what I mean. So with the EQ and the nipping, it tends to kind of get some of that chaos back. And that's with the positioner as well. Now, I've taken it into a different room, but not too different. But what I've tried to do is match that chaos that happens with the percussion. And the EQ and the damping seems to be the way to do it. I may discover down the line how wrong I am, but it could happen. So yeah, last couple of things, because I could go on and on and on, but last couple of things is actually I'm going to do choir. So I'll turn on, I've got Mystica, which is from Eduardo Tarilonte, and Requiem from Adio. And, I used both those quite a bit. But something like Mystica, which is, it's like this female chamber choir. There's also the cantus, which is the Gregorian chants, which is beautiful and, fits right into a church environment, but I didn't really do anything with it in this session. But the female chamber choir will equally do this, and it's really cool to be able to play with it. Let me turn off the reverb, and I've turned off the reverb from the original sample from the original library, and I'll just get the library just to sing ah or ooh. So I'm using the expression here, and I'm also using the expression pedal to control some volume, because I like doing those with this specific one, because the expression is more of a filter. So this is what it sounds like dry. If you put the reverb back on here, it's a beautiful reverb. Like whatever they've used in there is fantastic. But let me try to put it into Altiverb. So this is dry, and this is it in that church, and position right there. It starts to appear in the space. Do you know what I mean? It's just spread out in the space a little bit, rather than just being an additional reverb. And you can try it with some of the other phrases. Get too fast. So you can really get. Can really get it down there. So you can really get to customize how that choir gets to respond. And choirs are like one of those things. The rule is more reverb. Not always, but they always benefit, especially if you're doing this really slow, beautiful, moving music, and maybe like Eric Whitacre kind of stuff. Not that you have to define that style, but or copy that style, but it's more that way of thinking. So I've got here Requiem, and let's make this the last thing I do about this. So Requiem, I'll bring over that choir, that reverb. I really enjoy the phrase builder here. So what I'll do is, this is what it sounds like. I've turned off the other stages, but usually it comes off with the stage mid and far. And I've turned off the reverb in the effects unit over here. So this is it, kind of bone dry, but with the space that it was recorded in. If you get the space, the release happening. So. So it's pretty cool because you get that sense of the space. And if I turn the far off, this is what it sounds like far. That's pretty cool. And with the microphone control, you can place it in front of your orchestra. In fact, let me play that strings patch that I had before. And I'll combine it. If I put that format. So you can really hear what's going on there. But if I put the stage, that's where you get the definition of the voice. But obviously it's still too far ahead of it's too far. It's kind of mixed in with the orchestra, or even standing in front of the orchestra. And choirs are usually placed behind the orchestra because they can do a variety of things, like just enhance the intensity, increase the intensity of a cue or of a piece of music, or also kind of sit quietly in the back and do these beautiful things underneath. So this one, Requiem, seems, they can do a lot of things, but the phrase builder gets a bit, needs to be a bit rambunctious, needs to be a bit energetic to lift things up. So I'll give the Requiem, put that in it with the stage mic into the hall, which what we had was the King's College Chapel. And it's like right up front. This is 8 meters away, but if I put it... It's a big reverb time. Let me put the just match it to the strings. So that's pretty cool. And if I choose a different, like a 28 meters, and put it right, it gets a bit weird because it's like close mic and far mic, and it doesn't know what to do with it. So again, this is why I dial it up. So sometimes you need to you can't just push everything forward and say it's 28 meters away, because it doesn't always play well. And this is the thing I was talking about before. And yeah, lift. See, with the 8.8 meters, again, this plays. plays well with that stereo mic, with a stage mic. And the thing is, with these other mics, it could be a matter of tone. So could go with a far. Like this makes it a bit darker. Could be kind of like the bad guy. So it's not always just a question of stick the close mic into the space and be off with it. Sometimes you can put a space within a space. No need to be a purist about it. And this is again what I'm trying to say. No need to be a purist about it. But you can stick a space into a space because of the tone of what you've captured, and then you can get creative with it. And that, my dear friends, is the fun I have with Altiverb. And it's quite incredible. It's in the time I've had it, and I've been testing it out and trying it out, it's made its way into a lot of my work, and definitely, I would say it's definitely worth its cost, just for the sheer amount of stuff you could do with it. You would say $600 is pretty cheap for the regular version, or $1,000 is it's never cheap, but especially in the artistic line of work. But if you're finding a way to incorporate it into your work, you will make back your investment. So that is Altiverb, and that's my extra long first episode of Studio Space. I hope they won't all be this long, but I personally enjoy videos that explore a lot of stuff. So hopefully you've enjoyed this too. And I promise to get you some. I'll promise. Promise. Not that you've asked me for anything yet, but I hope you enjoyed this journey with me. And the next few episodes will be looking at a lot of really cool stuff. And I hope you enjoy it. So see you on the next episode of Studio Space.